What's up, Justin? I'll be live in just a sec. I just have to update some media stuff for my basketball team, and then I'll get going. We just have a lot of games canceled this week, I should say. So it's been a pretty frustrating week in the Seattle area. I know that there were some games played yesterday, but let me update this really quick, Justin, and we'll get started right on talking about basically what's been going on in Chicago. Alrighty, let's get started. Again, I do apologize, everybody. Just had to update our social media stuff for our basketball team. We just had some games canceled today, so had to update that. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have played games today, but it kind of is what it is at this point. In terms of stuff that's been going on, things that are happening. And so again, I do apologize that nothing's being played today for our guys, but that does give me time to kind of talk about stuff that's been going on in the NBA on the channel. Obviously, I haven't been on in a very long time, and I do apologize for that. When basketball season comes around for me, I do not lie. I do get a little bit more into my basketball season, more so than anything else. And so I will now just be covering a little bit of basketball, and obviously we're going to get going. Talking about a couple of stories here today. I thought the biggest one for me was the Chicago Bulls. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on, not just only the Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan beef that's been going on, but also Lonzo Ball. And is he going to play this season? That's the biggest question mark for a lot of people. And so, we'll see what happens there. But before we get started, hopefully you guys are enjoying your Tuesday afternoon. I know if you are in the Seattle area, it is pretty icy, so stay safe out there in the Seattle area. I know that roads right now are not the best conditions, and I believe right now it is 23 degrees, at least in the Seattle area, or at least in my area, a little bit more north of Seattle. So yeah, stay safe out there. Be careful when you're driving. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on, so be safe, and also make sure you maintain your distance if you are out here in the Seattle area. Again, it sucks that we're not playing games today and all that stuff, but I hope you guys are staying safe out there if you're in the Seattle area, and if you're anywhere else. I know that there's a big I think there's a big snowstorm coming around relatively soon, so like I said, make sure you guys stay safe out there in the snowy part of the regions. I know the Midwest is going to get hit. I think the East Coast could get hit as well, so again, stay safe. Hopefully you guys have a place to kind of stay warm, and hopefully you guys aren't traveling out too much. I know that obviously with snow and ice, it does slow down production of things, and Christmas shopping and things like that. But I hope you guys are enjoying, again, just staying inside with loved ones and enjoying the rest of your day. So with that being said, let us get started really quick. Let me just update somebody on. Yes, I have. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Let us get right back into what we're talking about. So, without further ado, let's get right into today's story. And before we do get into today's story, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Again, hitting that like, share, and subscribe helps the channel out tremendously, and it really does a great job of telling people that, hey, you mess with the charge, you think that they're great content. Obviously, I know Brad and Pete are not here today. Brad actually, dealing with the birth of a new daughter. So congrats to Brad and that end, and then Pete obviously doing his thing, making sure his family is doing the right things, and really taking care of everybody. So again, do appreciate those guys, and hopefully they do well. But nevertheless, let us get right into what we're talking about. So the Chicago Bulls obviously are a team that if we look at the standings really quick. And let me see if I can just pull up NBA standings. If we look at the East right now, the Chicago Bulls are in 11th place, 12-18 right now in the regular season. There was a lot of high expectations last season when we talk about a team that really should be in the upper echelon of the NBA Eastern Conference. Ever since the D Rose era, they've been looking for that spark, and they thought they found something last year by trading Vucevic. They're trading for Vucevic, getting Zach LaVine on a contract extension, and bringing in DeMar DeRozan. And for the most part, it was looking pretty good. And then obviously the injuries hit to both Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, and that really kind of stifled the Bulls, I would say, progression going up. And so right now what you're seeing here is the Chicago Bulls in a huge disarray. And Justin, I know if you're in here, I'm sorry that's going to be some bad news bears for your Chicago Bulls, but we do have to talk about it. So with that being said, here is what is going on really quick. Let's see if I can remove that. Okay, there we go. So the Chicago Bulls halftime dispute against the Minnesota Timberwolves last Sunday revolved around Zach LaVine's defense, sources told Joey Cowley of the Sun-Times. Obviously, the Chicago Bulls lost that game. There were several reporting blow-ups during halftime, with Billy Donovan having to come into the locker room to calm players down. Donovan confirmed that there was an incident before Wednesday's game against the Heat. Cowley adds that while Zach LaVine's name was not specifically called out during this dispute, much of the criticism was directed at him. The Athletic reported earlier that day that LaVine and Rosen had been navigating an on-court disconnect throughout the season. And this is really looking pretty bad. What's up, Sean? How you doing, man? The reason why this is looking pretty bad is because, again, everyone thought that this partnership was going to work. I mean, we think about the past couple days now, or last year, everyone was saying the Chicago Bulls are the second best team in the NBA. And if you really think about it, they should have been the second best team in the NBA. Because you have a Zach LaVine who's dedicated, has gotten a lot better since his rookie year. And then you have DeMar DeRozan, who's obviously been a stud at Toronto and continuing to be a stud in Chicago. At least last year, he was in MVP form. Obviously didn't get the MVP, but, was in the contention for it at some point in that season. And so you thought, okay, Lonzo Ball got hurt. It sucks, but maybe with him coming back, that might help out. But obviously, Lonzo Ball has not come back yet. There's still some reports that he's going to be out this year even, because obviously it hurts to run for him. So we're going to have to talk about that a little bit later on. But, as much as I love Zach LaVine, as much as I have to root for my guy who's from Bothell, what's tough to me about Zach LaVine is that he's had a history of this in terms of what happened in Minnesota at the beginning of his career to where he's at right now. It seems like he is a guy that wants to be in the best spot possible. And I think that the best spot possible for him is probably not on the Chicago Bulls anymore. I mean, he's been frustrated. He's obviously been frustrated with the way that the team's played. He wants to be on a winning organization and a winning team. And when we look at teams that are here right now, the fact that the Pacers are a lot better than them, the fact that the Heat, the Hawks, the Knicks, the fact that those teams are much better than these other teams, I would be frustrated as well, because when you look at what's going on, these other teams don't have star players like they do, like the Chicago Bulls do. Again, a lot of us here on the channel, Brad and Pete, they're not fans of Vucevic, but for the most part, Vucevic should be a better player. And Zach LaVine should be a better player, but Zach LaVine's play has taken a major hit. And if we look at kind of Zach LaVine's stats really quick, and we look at what's been, his stats for this last season, it has taken a tremendous kind of nosedive compared to his other seasons. I mean, he's shooting about 44% from the field, taking about 17 shots a game like he normally does, but 36% from three is pretty average, I would say, for NBA. 50% from two-pointer when he's usually above 53. Maybe except for 1 year in Chicago. But the fact that his stats have taken a huge nosedive, the personal fouls have taken a huge tick up. Rebounding has kind of stayed the same. Assists have kind of stayed the same. Like, we know that Zach LaVine is not going to be a guy that gets a lot of assists. But what I will say about the Chicago Bulls is that the stats are down for Zach LaVine, and even I think for Vucevic too. Vucevic, 16 points a game. I mean, this is looking pretty bad. And let's look at DeRozan. Oops. DeMar DeRozan. Not too much of a step back. Still, 25%. But, at the end of the day, this is not a good sign for the Chicago Bulls. They should really be contending with a lot of these teams. And the fact that they're not contending, I will say it is frustrating, because I think the Chicago Bulls team can be a lot better. I know, Justin, you're a big Chicago Bulls guy. You know what they're capable of, and clearly they're showing right now that they are not living up to the standards and expectations that people are expecting. We know that there is beef now between DeRozan and Zach LaVine. And I think the person that probably has to go, unfortunately, is going to have to be DeRozan, because Zach LaVine signed that extension. Like, he said, hey, I like the Chicago Bulls. I like the Chicago area. I'm going to stay. And clearly, you're seeing here that Zach LaVine is having second thoughts and really regrets about signing that contract when the Chicago Bulls team was picked to be an NBA, in the NBA Finals a year ago from a lot of people in the news media. I would say like ESPN and FS1 were really big on the Chicago Bulls. And, Pete and I were very cautious about the Chicago Bulls because we were not big fans of Vucevic. And really what I think it lays down to is that they really missing that point guard. Like, I think Lonzo is the key to this Chicago Bulls team doing a lot better. Like, I think he opens up the offense for them. I think he does a lot of great things. He gets Zach LaVine easier shots. And you can clearly see that, like, if we look at the stats for DeRozan again, just to kind of point it out, I think he's really missing that guy that gets him the ball, because look at the 3-point stats, look at the field goal percentage. Like, those things are way down. Maybe not by much, but still a little bit down from what they were. I mean, if we look at last year, I think Lonzo really helped out in that sense. Not saying that Lonzo is like the answer to everything for this team, but I do think that Lonzo Ball would be a huge thing for them. I mean, let's look at kind of the thing that happened an hour ago and what happened with the Chicago Bulls. And that is, of course, Billy Donovan saying that Lonzo Ball's knee is progressing towards running, but the guard remains without a timeline to do that activity, Casey Johnson of NBC Sports Chicago reports. While Donovan update is mildly positive, it's far from guaranteed that Ball, who underwent a second procedure in his left knee in 8 months in late September, will be able to play at any point this season. Just 1 week ago, Woj reported that on ESPN's Countdown that Ball still has pain in his left knee, a discouraged sign given that he is now 2.5 months removed from his latest procedure. Even if Ball is able to get back on the court and do some running in the near future, it's worth noting that the 25-year-old previously felt pain while running on anti-gravity treadmill last season while rehabbing the initial surgery. And that is the biggest, I would say, red flag. It's not looking good for Lonzo Ball fans like myself. Again, I think Lonzo Ball is an X factor. I think he is a game changer. But at the end of the day, if he can't stay healthy, it's this. I got to give the same energy that I do to guys like Ben Simmons or like Anthony Davis, like those guys. Like, Lonzo Ball is injury prone, and that's kind of the sad reality of Lonzo Ball at this current point. I think Lonzo Ball is a tremendous talent. I think he's a special player. Again, I will stan Lonzo Ball because I think he's really that good, and I think that his passing ability really demonstrates, when you see it on the court, like what he can do for a team and an organization. But at the end of the day, if Lonzo can't stay healthy, if he can't continuously give you the things that you need out there on the court, then it just kind of goes to show that the Bulls are going to have to move on from Lonzo Ball sooner rather than later. Because if they continue to go with Lonzo Ball, if he continues to be hurt, again, I'm not saying give up on the kid, because he's a great player, and I think that he can do a lot of tremendous things. Obviously, when he's healthy, it'll be a lot better. But at the end of the day, Lonzo can't stay healthy at this current point. And whether it is because of himself or whether it's because of just, the way your body is, that's just the reality of what Lonzo Ball is at this current point. Lonzo has special and unique ability to pass the ball, to get guys in the right places. But at the expense of the Chicago Bulls spending that much money to get him there, I think they have to move on from him, and they need to look at what else they need to do at the point guard position. I have been harping on the Chicago Bulls point guard position for the last couple of years, ever since they decided to blow it up with D-Rose and, kind of go in a new direction. Kind of went that Jimmy Butler route, then kind of let that go. They have yet to draft a good point guard. I mean, they got guys like Kobe White. I remember they got a couple, Dosumo, but he's more of a scoring guard. But they were really looking for that point guard, and I think that's what's missing right now from this team, is that steady-minded, just play-making point guard. Just a pure, passer. Again, I just think that that's what they really need in order to be successful. And what also is kind of a concern, too, is that now you got Vucevic, who you traded a draft pick for. I can't remember what that draft pick ended up turning into. But it's still a draft pick that I would have kept. And right now, the Chicago Bulls are kind of stuck with the roster that they have. I mean, let's look at the Chicago Bulls roster currently. You got DeMar DeRozan, you got Vucevic, you got Patrick Williams, you got Goran Dragic, Caruso, Dosumo, Levine, Javante, Derrick Jones Jr., Andre Drummond, Kobe White, Dalen Terry, Tony Bradley, Malcolm Hill, Marco Simovic, and then Lonzo Ball. Take Lonzo Ball out of the equation, and you're left with a pretty average, I would say, point guard position. Again, Kobe White, to me, is more of a scoring guard. I don't really view him as a point guard. Ayo Dosumo, again, same thing, scoring guard. Alex Caruso is probably your best, I would say, point guard, right? Someone that really is looking to get guys the ball, looking to, really move the ball when it gets to him. He's not looking to shoot. But at the end of the day, they don't really have a guy that, kind of steadies the ship. I mean, Caruso is that guy, but he's not that guy for a whole game. He's not a 48-minute type of guy. He's a guy that you're probably going to play 6th to 7th man minutes, but at the same time is not someone that's going to take over the game, not going to do a lot every single night. Like, I love Caruso's game. I've grown to appreciate it more now. I wasn't really a big fan of it in the past, but I've grown to appreciate it a little bit more now, even retrospectively thinking back on it. But at the end of the day, he can't play the 48 minutes. Like, he's not that type of player. And Lonzo Ball is that type of player and that type of point guard that you need, but can't stay healthy. And I think for me, like, when I look at that, when I see that, it's hard to talk about the Bulls right now because I think that they should be a lot better than they are. And now the question now becomes, like, do they blow it up? You look at this roster, it's not as strong as it was a year ago. Is this team even ready? No, they're not ready. This team is far from ready. This team is far from perfect. And, like, when you look at it, no one on this team screams that they're ready to take over a game. Like, I love Zach LaVine. I love all the team. I love some of the players on this team. But collectively as a unit, I just don't know if they're really built for that. I don't know if they're ready for it. And that's kind of the situation that we're noticing right now when it comes to Chicago is I don't think a lot of these guys have what it takes to really step up and win championships. Like, this team is really, I would say, screwed in a sense that because Lonzo's hurt, because Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan are kind of having their battle and beef, it's really affecting their where they're at right now in the league. Again, 12-18, 11th in the Eastern Conference. Again, they're just one game back of the playing game. I'm not gonna say it here and say, like, oh, it's over. But this is a team that should comfortably be in the playoffs each and every year with this roster. Like, even without Lonzo Ball in this roster, this team really should be a team that is able to handle at least being a 6th to 5th seed in this conference. And the fact that they're not that right now is a little bit shocking, is a little bit disappointing, because I know what type of talent Zach LaVine can be. But at the same time, if he is not willing to, I would say, be there for their team, be there for his teammates, kind of be there for everyone, then it's hard for me to kind of say, like, yes, this guy should be playing. This guy is an all-star. At this point, no one on this team is going to be an all-star this year. Like, even with voting and all that stuff, he's not going to be voted in as a starter. He's not going to be picked by coaches because I think it's just the attitude thing. Like, I mean, I think Zach LaVine has a right to be upset because obviously his team is not playing to the standard that he's used to. But there seems to be some sort of disconnect between DeRozan and him, and that's going to probably carry on for the near future until they win. You know, winning is the best cure of what's been going on in Chicago. And so, again, let me know in the comment section down below what do you guys make of the Chicago Bulls team. Like I said, I think it's very disappointing to see him, that being Zach LaVine and the Bulls in general, just not playing to the standard and really the expectations. Like, the record should be flipped. It should be 18-12, not 12-18. But again, at the end of the day, Chicago has to kind of deal with what they got. And we'll see what happens from here. But let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of the Chicago Bulls? Are you guys a fan of what's been going on there? And Justin, I know you probably are working right now doing the Lord's work, so I do appreciate that. Let me know in the comment section when this video becomes a separate section, or let me know in this live stream What do you make of the Chicago Bulls currently as we move forward to talking about other teams? Let us know in the comment section down below. All right, everybody, let us kind of move on. And there's a couple more stories I do want to talk about. I just want to make sure that there's no other like stories besides the next story that I kind of want to talk about. I guess we can kind of talk about this. Let's quickly talk about this. I don't think I'm going to make it a separate topic. I just kind of want to quickly mention it. And again, this isn't to be negative because I don't think it's a negative storyline, but it is a very interesting storyline to really mention and really kind of talk about because I think that it will affect the Phoenix Suns down the line. So, Monty Williams and DeAndre Jordan have heated exchange at the end of loss to the Wizards. Monty Williams and Ayton had a heated exchange during a timeout late in the Phoenix Suns 113-110 loss Tuesday night to the Washington Wizards. The exchange occurred with Phoenix down 107-100 with 43.4 seconds left. It was the whole team in those moments, Williams said after the game. It wasn't just DeAndre. It was the whole group out there not executing properly. It was a bit of frustration, but that happens. It's not a solely isolated one person or one player thing. We weren't really exchanging words, Ayton said. We're a family. He knows how to talk to his boys, and his boys know how to just communicate. Obviously, the whole world would see it, but it should really just love and getting back to regroup to take out the confusion. Williams and Ayton had an issue in their Game 7 elimination in last year's playoffs. It did not speak again until the start of the training camp. What I will say in the defense of both DeAndre Jordan and Monty Williams, DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams, I don't think that this is necessarily. I would classify it as. Let's take a step back. So here is what I am concerned with. This is now the third incident I would say in the last 2 to 3 years where DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams have had some sort of issues on the bench. So to me, there's a history there with those two guys. And it is a little bit of a concern, I would say, because those two guys have had incidents stemming back from the NBA Finals between the Bucks and the Suns. And I think that that's a big issue, I would say, because when I really stop back and think about it, that really led to this whole contract situation that's been going on for DeAndre Ayton. And Monty Williams obviously hasn't talked to him in a very long time that season. And then even last season in Game 7, elimination, contract situation. Didn't talk then. And they continuously have these spats and arguments. And so from that perspective, I would say that's a little bit of a concern because you want to make sure, like when you are playing out there, when you are balling out, like there's always like one guy on the team where you can kind of like, you have to be a little bit, I wouldn't say stern, but you definitely have to be, you definitely have to like talk to him continuously. And I think Ayton probably feels some type of way about the way that Williams goes about it. But I just think that those two guys are just in the heated moment. So I think it's kind of interesting to kind of see that. The reason why I think it's not a big deal from last night's game is because I think it's just one game. To me, like, this is different than the finals. This is different than the playoffs. This, to me, is just kind of one of those things where they're just talking, and I just think that they're just talking back and forth. I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. Again, I never want a coach yelling at a player. I think that that's not the right way to do things as a coach. I think you really, obviously it's different from high school to NBA, right? You're grown men versus, a teenager and an adult coach, like trying to figure out what's going on compared to an adult coach and adult player, obviously, bickering when both guys are making a ton of money. Drunk, you said, I don't think Monty hates Ayton. He just doesn't feel he's worth his pay, and the team would be fine without him. I'm on Monty's side. Suns would miss a beat without Ayton. I don't think the Suns would nearly be as good because right now, without Chris Paul kind of like steering the ship, kind of like 2 years ago, Chris Paul, when he was still kind of a little bit in his prime, it's a tough. I think the Suns are, even though I think right now they're not doing too bad, right? The Suns are let me see where the Suns are at right now. They're fourth, kind of battling for that 1 seed. So I mean, again, I think, not saying that they wouldn't miss a beat, but I definitely think that he's a lot better on their team than not on their team. Drunk. I would have to disagree with you there, because I just think that without Ayton, what does the Suns team look like with the roster, right? You have Jock Landale or Bismack Biyombo as your starter. And again, no disrespect to those two guys, but I think Ayton's a little bit better. Again, going into that draft, that me and Pete were both Luka guys. Like, we both thought that Luka would have changed this organization. They would have helped him out a lot. But they decided to go DeAndre Ayton, and they thought that he could be kind of like a 3-point shooting big, almost kind of like a Joel Embiid-esque type of player. And I don't think DeAndre Ayton has kind of lived up to that expectation. And if you want to say that he's not worth the money that they paid for him, then yeah, sure. I mean, we can make that argument. You can kind of say that. Let me just see if their stats are here. I think at the end of the day, the last couple of, what is that, the last 5 years, including this year, I think what you're noticing about DeAndre Ayton is that he's going to be about a 17 to 18 point per game scorer, giving you at least 10 rebounds a game, and that's it. Like, he's going to give you 17 and 10 every night. Now, when you drafted him number 1 overall, I think you were expecting someone that could give you 20 plus points. Like, I'm talking like 25 to 28 points per game with like 10 rebounds. I think that's what people were expecting with the Phoenix Suns to have with Ayton, because they had Booker at that point, and they thought those two guys could really work well together. But I just think they were missing that point guard this whole time, and they finally got it in Chris Paul. But here's what I will say. Is DeAndre Ayton's stats worth the money that they paid for him? Again, personally, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, because like, when I think of a guy that should be, really has the body and frame of someone that should be stronger, someone that really should be like averaging, I would say, I would say 25 and 12. Excuse me. He's someone that really should be averaging 25 and 12. He's not someone that I think should be like a 17 point per game scorer. Because what I think it kind of shows is that obviously Booker takes a lot more of the shots. If we look at this roster, we look at this team, Drunk, he's averaging 12 shots a game compared to his second year where he's averaging 15 shots a game. And if we look at the rest of the roster, like, let's look at a guy like Chris Paul. Chris Paul, this is probably later in his career, averaging 9.8 shots. Not really taking a lot of his shots, but I think what you're going to see with Devin Booker is that his shot total has jumped up tremendously. I mean, look at the shot totals that Booker has in the last 2 to 3 years. 19.2 in 2020. 20.9, and let me move this down so you guys can see it. 20.9 shots attempted in 2021, and then 21.1. So I think all the shots, if I'm not mistaken, have been going to Devin Booker. And that's the reason why there's times where he is being considered for the MVP conversation. And as much as I think that he is a tremendous talent, I think Devin Booker does a great job at times. What I think a lot of people can forget, in my opinion, is the reason why I feel like DeAndre Ayton's stats have gone down is because he's kind of stayed in the same relative ballpark of minutes, of touches, of attempt field goals, while Devin Booker has taken a lot more. And, from an Ayton perspective, I can see why he's upset, because he feels that he should be getting a little bit more of the shine. And I think what I'm noticing is that Monty Williams is a very, team, family-oriented guy, and he wants everybody to kind of get their bread. But I just feel like what else Monty Williams wants to see is DeAndre Ayton playing a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more harder. And, to me, it stems back, personally for me, it stems back to the NBA Finals, where I think he had, if I'm not mistaken, he either had Drew Holiday or Middleton on him. in the post. And instead of, he took one step, or kind of like he had the ball, posted the guy up, took one dribble in, and instead of, kind of backing him down to see what else happens, he just kind of took a little hook shot and missed it. When I think of bigs in the post, I understand that the game has changed. It's no longer what it was in the 2000s with Shaq, Tyson Chandler, all those guys. Like, and I know I just mentioned like Tyson Chandler's just a name to shout out, right? Those guys were taking about a couple back downs before they go up and score the bucket. I need Ayton to play stronger and needs to play a little bit more ferociously. Like, there's no way in my mind that DeAndre Ayton should be even remotely close to not backing someone down and scoring the bucket. Like, that is unacceptable for me. And I think that's the reason why I think DeAndre Ayton probably has kind of stepped down a little bit in terms of like getting frustrated, obviously, with Monty Williams. Why Monty Williams is frustrated with DeAndre Ayton, because he knows what he is expecting from DeAndre Ayton, and DeAndre Ayton's just not living up to those expectations. And so that's going to be a thing to look at and notice as we continue to monitor the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul is still out, I believe, with injuries, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look. He might be back actually, but you got Devin Booker out against Washington, didn't really play in that game. That should have been a game that Ayton stepped up. And obviously they lost to the Washington Wizards this game. Let's see here. Who kind of went off for the Phoenix Suns in this game? 32 minutes for DeAndre Ayton. 13 total rebounds. He was 12 for 20. Had 30 points. I mean, he was balling. Obviously, without Booker there, he gets a little bit more of the touches. But Landry Shamet was the next guy. He took 21 shots. I don't think that's a recipe for success if Landry Shamet is taking 21 shots. And again, Mikal Bridges playing hell of defense and, kind of playing that Hellcat defense. We'll kind of see what goes on there. But, yeah, I would say I'm a little bit disappointed in the way that this team played. Team with the Wizards that, again, they're a good team. They're solid, but they don't have the togetherness, I would say, of a team like the Phoenix Suns with their coach. And so I think the Wizards have to figure it out. They're still trying to figure out what to make of their roster, but the Phoenix Suns have to pull out and win that game, even without Booker. Because I just think that this team is just too talented to win. It's too talented to not win these type of games. And so we'll see what happens in the near future. But again, didn't want to make this its own separate video because I think that it's overblown a little bit. But we'll see what happens in the near future. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of Ayton and Monty Williams getting into a heated battle? I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And I'll be right back. I just have to fix something really quick, and I'll be right back to talk about the next story. All right. Sorry about that. Just had to fix a couple of things here. Alrighty. So let us talk about the next story. And this one's going to sting a little bit. This one is going to sting because of the fact that I have kind of on this channel been known to be a Hawks supporter, apologist, whatever you want to call it. I've liked the way that the Atlanta Hawks have moved these last couple years to get their team to where they're at right now. But right now, it seems to be a little bit of trouble in paradise. I mean, if we look at the records right now in the East, the Hawks are 16-15. They're 7th in the East, when really I think they should be in the top 5 conversation. This team is too good and too talented to not be in that conversation. But here we are. It's December 21st, and the Hawks are 16-15, close to being at 500. They're just a game above it. And there's obviously been a lot of stories about Trae Young and his coach, players on that team as well. Yeah, I mean this is a very troubling situation going on. So let me read kind of the big story that's kind of come out of Atlanta these last couple days, and that is Travis Schlenke. You know, a guy that used to be with the Golden State Warriors back in the day, who kind of helped build that team, I would say. He's moving into an advisory role, and Landry Fields is going to be running Hawks basketball operations. So Atlanta Hawks president of basketball operations, Travis Schlenke, is moving into a senior advisory role with the team. General manager Landry Fields will take over the Hawks' day-to-day basketball operations. This shift in responsibility comes at an interesting time. The NBA trade deadline is roughly a month and a half away. The Hawks have spent the most year around 500 and in range to be in the play-in tournament. The Hawks have been heavily involved in trade rumors with John Collins, plus many other players often mentioned. Schlenke ran the Hawks basketball operations for 6+ years and acquired every player on the current roster. Now those decisions will be made by Fields, who was promoted to the GM role this past offseason. And this, to me, is a very big concern if you're the Atlanta Hawks. Not because I think Travis Schlenke is some sort of mega genius that knows everything and does everything. This is, I would say, the tough part and situation going on in Atlanta. Trae Young, and I think the conversation needs to be had about Trae Young, I would say, and that's the fact that, like, what does Trae Young want to do to win a championship? What is it? What do you want to do, and what is it going to take for you to understand that the way that you've kind of led Pierce out as a coach, the first guy that you had as your coach, you let him out that way. Now Nate McMillan, who is an NBA legend and also an NBA kind of NBA coach's darling, I would say. Not in the fact that I think a lot of people respect. He's a guy that a lot of people respect, I should say. He's a guy that any NBA team would be lucky to have on their coaching staff, and he was clearly on that last season. He's not a guy that really wants to piss you off now. So to me, this is the most garbage situation of all time, because to me this all stems and all responsibility should be on Trae Young. There should be no reason to me there should be no reason why the Hawks shouldn't be at least a 4th or 5th seed in the East with the roster that they have. Again, my friends have talked about it on the channel, Pete and Brad, shout out to them. They've talked about how they really should be in the conversation of having Trae Young off the ball. And Trae Young has clearly shown that he doesn't want to do that. He wants to be on the ball the whole time. He thinks that he's Luka Doncic in a 5'11", 6-foot body, when that's clearly not the case. I think Trae Young needs to realize that he needs to play team basketball. And right now, he's not playing team basketball. Like, let's look at Trae Young's stats really quick. And really see like what's going on with him. Currently, averaging 27.3 points a game, like that's not an issue, but the 3-point percentage to me has started to become a concern. 29.3%, that's below average. NBA average to me is about 35 to 34. And the fact that he's shooting 29% currently is a monstrosity. It's atrocious. Like, we know Trae Young can shoot the ball way better than that, but I think there's times where he's just forcing shots up. I mean, this guy is averaging 21.2 shots a game on 41% from the field goal. Like, that is not okay. Like, Trae Young needs to step up as a point guard, as the leader of the team, and take less of the shots so he doesn't have to force so many up. I think that's the problem with Trae Young at the current point, is that he's just taking way too many shots away from other guys. I mean, let's look at this Atlanta Hawks roster and really deep dive into who they are. So you have Onyeka Okongwu, who I like, kind of like an undersized center. Could be a Draymond Green maybe esque type of player. I'm not really sure. We look at Onyeka Okongwu, kind of averaging that many points. We'll see if he can step up. Jalen Johnson, again, not really expecting much from him. AJ Griffin, I like a lot. I think he's going to be a really good player. Aaron Holiday, again, solid player. DeJounte Murray, let's look at his points and shots this season. He's taking 18 shots a game, averaging 20.6. I mean, he's doing just okay. Like, he's doing about what he could do. Maybe even a little bit better. Let's look at John Collins. I know he's been hurt for a little bit. But to me, his numbers and stats have taken a huge nosedive in the last couple of years because obviously DeJounte Murray is going to take more of the shots. And sorry about that. Obviously John Collins shot I would say what's the right word I'm looking for? Shot attempts have gone down because obviously DeJounte Murray is there now, but it's really a disappointing situation to see John Collins not ready. Or I should say maybe not he's not ready, but you know, he's a guy that I think you should be including. I mean, his career points, he's a 16 point per game scorer with 8 rebounds, and he has struggled to get any love from Trae Young or any of these other guys. There's a reason why John Collins was upset with Trae Young a year ago during a film session study. Like, to me, I think as much as I love Trae Young, and I think Trae Young has, I think he has to have that ego just because he is a small guard. And with smaller guys, I can relate. Like, you have to have a little bit of toughness, a little bit of ego and belief in yourself that you can do this. Otherwise, you'll get bullied around. But what I am disappointed in is the fact that we're now seeing John Collins. It's disappointing because I think John Collins could be really good. I think he'd be okay. But he's just not been given the opportunity to. And I think, like I said, it all stems from Trae Young. And I think Trae Young is the Atlanta Hawk problem currently. Not saying that he can't be redeemable, can't be fixed, or anything like that. He just needs to be a leader of the team and own up to the mistakes that he's made in this team. Like, I think that's kind of where I'm at with Trae Young currently, is that he really should be stepping up in that leadership role, and he is not. And I would love for him to step up in that role because I think he can be a great leader. I think he can be a good guy. But he's chosen not to be that. And that, to me, as a coach, I'm sure McMillan has had that conversation with him. Like, you need to be a leader, and you need to be someone that we can rely on. That if if the ship is rocking, like you're able to steady the ship. But he seems to have rocked the boat a lot more. And it's really been a frustrating situation, I would say. If you're a Hawks fan, if you're someone that loves watching the Atlanta Hawks play, he has been frustrating to kind of see and kind of watch and really develop what I think could be a really good team. Again, I look at the 22-23 no, not that one. Where is it? Here. Like, the Hawks are in 7th right now. Like, there's no way that they should be in 7th. They should be realistically above the Knicks. The Knicks don't have a better roster than the Hawks, but the Knicks just play together. They're on a 8-game winning streak right now. I know the Hawks are on a 2-game winning streak currently, but the last couple of days have really kind of shown to me that the Hawks need to step up in that category. And so, with Travis Schlenke stepping down, I think that this be the end of the Atlanta Hawks that we currently know and see. Like, is Landry Fields gonna decide, like, hey, let's just blow it up? Obviously I think Collins is gonna get traded. I think Collins is done. I don't think they want Collins there anymore. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens to this team. Again, I like this team a lot more last year, but there's just no cohesion. There's no team unity. And again, I know Trae Young is the star. I know Trae Young is a great player, but he has to play as a team if he wants to continuously give guys opportunities and give guys the confidence that they need in order to move forward. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of this story? Travis Schlenke moving into an advisory role, Landry Fields stepping up in that basketball operations. This could be the end of the Atlanta Hawks as we know it. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of the Atlanta Hawks moving forward? I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. All right, everybody. Let me just double check and make sure there's no other kind of news to talk about. Obviously, the Suns are getting a new owner. Monty Williams, we already talked about that. Max Kleber out with the hamstring tear. That sucks. Knicks interested, reached out to Raptors with trade interest in OG Anunoby. Magic seek a first-round pick for Mo Bamba. Let's see if there's anything on ESPN really quick. Just kind of talking about NBA. Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about that a little bit. Yeah, I think we kind of talked about everything that we needed to today. Again, I do apologize that it was only the Bernie show today. You know, I love to get my guys on, but you know, obviously work changes, and you know, I had to put out content for you guys because I felt bad that I couldn't record this weekend with Pete and Brad. And so hopefully we can all get together relatively soon. Obviously, I think Brad's going to be a little more preoccupied than dealing with us talking about basketball. I'm sure it's a nice escape for him. But again, I'll talk to those guys about doing a show before I head out. I actually am going to Palm Springs for a tournament. And so I will be gone for next week, starting on the 26th. And so, yeah, I mean, again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys like hopping on and really talking about the game right now. Again, I think basketball is at a good point right now. I think the league has gotten a lot interesting. I think the Nets have done a lot better this time around. 19-12, they've really responded well to Jacques Vaughn being the coach. And the 76ers are still, you know, keeping at it, plugging away. And then in the West, you know, the Nuggets continue to dominate. Grizzlies continue to dominate. The Pelicans continue to live up to those expectations that Brad put on them, and I just think it's awesome. And you know, the Clippers and the Sacramento Kings continuing to chug along. We'll talk a little bit more about them. The Golden State Warriors are struggling. The Lakers are struggling. The Thunder are struggling, and obviously Spurs and Rockets are struggling as well. Detroit Pistons, Hornets. I think the Hornets will struggle for a long time until maybe they might get Victor Wembanyama. Who knows? But I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Again, this was a very fun thing to talk about. I know that, again, didn't cover everything today, but it was fun to talk a little bit about basketball, especially talking about the Travis Schlenke stuff. And, of course, the other stuff as well. But with that being said, thank you once again for joining us here on The Charge. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Again, all that stuff helps out tremendously. And it gives us a good reason to continuously create content for you guys. I'm excited to talk to Pete and Brad when they come back on the show, and you know, we're definitely gonna get it going. So with that being said, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of this whole story and everything that has gone on. Anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll catch everybody on the next episode. Peace. Oops. On the show, and you know, we're definitely gonna get it going. So with that being said.